in life or late in their vocabulary?
The French actually visited New Zealand around the same time the British did. So I don't know. I guess they just heard French people saying "wee wee." So
Yeah,
webinar starts. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many people come for this one, because it is quite a specific one.
This is quite a specific one. You're right.
I would expect a smaller audience than usual today. Reading. Maybe make it a bit bigger. Yeah, actually let's go for the N dash rather than the M dash. That looks better. All right, cool. I'll leave you.
Great. Yeah, let me start everything up.
But what I'll do is I'll turn off my video.
Yeah, okay.
Does it show Hannah's picture?
Not in this view. It just says.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, okay, cool. I'll come back in 10 minutes.
All right.
I just take you in the morning, then I'll pick up after a few minutes. Okay, hello. Welcome everyone again to my home here in New Zealand. If this is the first time you're watching one of these webinars, my name is Greg. I've been an English teacher for the last 15 years or so, and for the last 2 years I've been back here in my homeland, which is New Zealand. Before that, I lived in South Korea for 13 years. Most of that time I spent working at a university, so I'm very familiar with academic English, and more recently here in New Zealand, with the IELTS tests, which you are all preparing for. So if you're watching this webinar on YouTube, on Facebook, then please feel free to ask me any questions via the Facebook page. I will be able to see your questions on my phone. The focus of today's webinar is reading, but it's for general training. So if you are studying for the academic tests, this may still be helpful for you because we're going to practice the same types of skills which are going to be useful for any reading tests. In particular, we're going to focus a lot on scanning today. So I've mentioned it when we did webinars for the academic tests, that scanning skills in the IELTS reading tests are very important. So I'm going to take you over now to the grade website, and just before I do that, I'll just tell you again, this is for the general training reading test. So let's go across. Okay, at this point, you should be able to see the grade page. So this is the landing page, and you can see all of the different tests which you can practice. So just want to let you know, as we go down to the reading test itself, this is a practice test. And the one we're going to do today is right here. Where is it? Oh, I see. Okay. So I might have to change back to general training. So let's do that. Okay. So we're going to work on this one here, which has some different sections on happiness, crockpots, and ladder safety. So I click on begin. Okay. As always, I just want to remind you with the test information that this reading test is 1 hour. But this 1 hour also includes the time it takes for you to write your answers or transfer your answers from the question book onto the answer paper. Now, some people get confused because when they take the listening test, they have an extra 10 minutes at the end of the listening test to transfer their answers to that answer paper for the listening test. But just always remember, in the reading test, whether it be general or academic, you have to complete everything within the 1 hour. So that means answer the questions and fill in the answer sheet. That's all has to be done within the 60 minutes. Now, this is a practice test. So what you'll find is when you do the general training test, there'll be 3 sections. The first section will consist of 2 readings. Those readings are about everyday English. We're actually going to do 3 readings for this practice test. And all of those readings are also about everyday English. In the actual test, when you go to section 2, the readings will be longer, and then most of those readings are going to be about business or something related to business or employment. Section 3 in the general training test is similar to any one of the sections that you might find on the academic test. So again, today we're going to do 3 readings just for practice, and they're going to be similar to the types of readings that you might find in section 1 of the actual test. So let's press start and get underway. Okay, now again with the grade site, you can change the view. So I like to maximize the view of what I'm reading and just leave the questions a little minimized. Now, as always, just have a quick look at what you're dealing with, and we can see this is a very short reading. Now, the aim of the game, or the name of the game when you're taking the IELTS test itself, you want to minimize how much actual reading you need to do. So there's no point reading this whole section about professional yard care, I would just jump straight into the questions, and hopefully with the help of our scanning skills, we can find the information in the reading. So this one here, there's only 2 options. This is a very easy warm-up sort of practice. Let's do this one together. So we're asked to select the correct services that professional yard care can offer. So there's a choice here of images of equipment and services, or road construction and repair. So just with those 2 things in mind, we just scan down here. And I can't actually highlight that for you, but hopefully you can see my icon. With the bullet points, it says services that are available. So as soon as I see the word service, then I look at the bullet points. And the 3rd bullet point says road construction and repair. So very simple little warm-up type exercise, but it is engaging your scanning skills. And it's also reminding you that you don't need to read everything. The same rule is going to apply in the test. So we go down to question 2. And we're asked to, the same question, select the correct service that professional yard can offer. So we're going to be looking at those bullet points again. And we have a choice of draining system or make your yard the envy of your neighbors. And as I scan down, hopefully you can see my cursor. We can see the 5th option, draining system, right? So I'm just going to click draining system. So this webinar today, it's not going to be as long as some of the other ones, but it's just an idea to give you a taste of what you might expect. A way to practice here for the general training reading test. So question 3, select the professional service that professional yard care can offer. So we know again, we're going to be scanning over the bullet points. So it's going to be lawn trimming services or a 10% discount. And that's the 1st bullet point. So a very simple question, lawn mowing and trimming. So, but what I will point out is that you're not always going to get the exact same phrase in the actual test. And here is an example where lawn mowing and trimming, it's been paraphrased as lawn trimming services. Question 4, same thing. Well, this is, I don't even think I need to read the reading to tell the answer to this. Obviously, a phone number cannot be a service. So I'm just going to select full excavation services. So, and if you want to check, it's the last bullet point. So nice little warm-up questions, some nice little warm-up questions here for you. Just to repeat, the purpose of this is for practice, and we're going to do 2 more sections here, and I think they're going to be a little bit more difficult than this. Okay, again, another short reading, and always look at the title. We can see that this is about ladder safety. So we're told, follow these rules when you are climbing a ladder. So I'm just going to scroll up to the top question. And as you can see, as I scroll up, these are all true, false, not given questions. So same question types that you might find on the academic reading test, you're going to find on the general training test. Again, always remember this, true means that the information from the question is given in the reading. False means that there is information in the reading which relates to the question, but it is wrong, right? Not given is the one which a lot of students find the most difficult. The information in the question is not in the reading at all. So that's where you need to also think where the information is likely to be found. Luckily for us, this is a very short reading. So if the answer is not given, it's not going to take long for us to check over the whole reading to check that the information is not given. So let's start. Now we're told you should climb facing forward. So climb facing forward, they're the key words. So climb facing forward, and right here, number 1. So we're told to follow these rules when climbing a ladder. And the first rule is climb facing forward. So the writer does tell us that you should climb facing forward. So that's absolutely true, an easier question. Now the next one, just make sure that's question 6. Okay, you should use the ladder as a step. Now, sometimes you might even have a prediction. my prediction, or hopefully my common sense tells me that's not a very good idea to use a ladder as a step, but we need to check, right? So I would only answer false if I was running out of time, but in terms of the general training test, you're almost always going to do section 1 first because they're shorter and it's easier to find the answers. So let's just check that our prediction that it's false is the correct answer. So use the ladder as a step. Those are the keywords. So not to. Okay, so I'm looking for step, and we see in point 5, do not use the top of the ladder as a step. So very clearly it says do not, which contradicts, means the information in the question, you should use the ladder as a step, is very different from the information, it's the opposite from the information in the reading, which tells us not to use the ladder as a step. So our prediction of false was the correct answer. Okay, we're on to number 7. So you should place the ladder on an even surface. Now, again, one thing I want to tell you is you need to base all of your answers on the reading, right? So we just made a prediction, and luckily the information was there for us to check in the reading, right? Even though the answer was false, there was some information I'll just bring it up again. So for question 6, you should use the ladder as a step. There was information about using the ladder as a step in the reading. Now, when we go on to question 7, my prediction is you should place the ladder on an even surface. So I'm making a prediction here. My prediction would be true. That seems like a very common sense, sensible thing to do, to put a ladder on an even surface, right? But I still need to check that the information is in the reading, right? So don't just say true because you think it's the best answer. Always need to base our answers on the information we're given in the reading. So we go through. 1 we've already done. Do not overarch. Well, there's nothing there about placing the ladder on an even surface. Do not carry an object. Well, that's not about placing the ladder on an even surface. Neither is exceeding the weight rating. We've already covered number 5. And the last one tells us, do not move or extend a ladder when anyone is on it. So this means, this is a very easy example to understand, but here is an example of not given. Even though the best prediction seems to be that this should be true, the actual information is not contained in the reading, so we must answer it as not given. Okay, we're on to number 6. Now, by this point, we should be very familiar with the reading, and here, hopefully you can remember at home, you should not move or extend a ladder when anyone is on it. So we just read that last time. So what will happen is when you do have a question for which the answer is not given, when you do those questions, it builds a lot of makes you more familiar, builds a lot of familiarity with the test, right? So you should not move or extend a ladder when anyone is on it. So that was covered in point 6, which tells us do not move or extend a ladder when anyone is on it. So we know that answer is true. Now I will say with number 8, don't be confused by this is a negative sentence, right? You should not. And a lot of people might get confused and they'll think, okay, do not, well then the answer is false because false by nature is negative. Again, true means that the information in the question is the same as the information in the reading, right? So we can see from the instructions if the statement agrees with the views of the writer, right? So that's what makes the answer true, because the reading agrees with the statement of the writer. So don't be confused by the use of not. And the final true, false, not given question. The picture illustrates how to climb a ladder safely. So occasionally you'll be asked to analyze a picture, and this picture here, this does not indicate any form of climbing, or especially it doesn't indicate how to climb a ladder. So I'm just going to answer that as false. We're on to our last section for today. Now there's a little bit more content here. So You may notice that a lot of the imagery or the images used on this site are quite colorful. You can expect to find black and white images if you do the written IELTS test especially, but hopefully these color images just make the site a little bit more presentable. So looking at the question types here, another very common question type, choose no more than 3 words from the passage for each answer. So that means we cannot have 4 words to fill in the blanks. Now, with these type of questions, occasionally you might have multiple, or there may be multiple answers available. So let's see. Again, just look at the title. Why every chronic pain should have a crock pot, right? So obviously something about buying crock pots. It looks like an advertisement. So because there is not much in the reading itself, so obviously a bit of humor there. Crock pot is a painkiller, makes cooking easier, I guess. There's not really a lot of information given in that advertisement, so there's no point reading the whole thing. We can use our scanning skills to find the information. So look for the keywords as always. A crock pot can save you from work stress, your daily commute, and. So here I would be looking for these keywords, work stress and daily commute. Let's see if we can find those. And they're right at the top. So stress from work, your commute, and what's missing then is this one here, family responsibilities. So I have to be very careful about how I spell this. And you'll also notice what I did not do is I did not use capitalization, right? So that would be incorrect, well, most likely would be incorrect. But if you want to have the best answer, always use the punctuation to reflect the sentence that you're dealing with, right? So to complete the sentence, I don't need to use capitalization. I'm just going to have lowercase f, lowercase r, and that should be the answer. Okay, on to question 11. A crock pot means you will spend less time in the. Now, if you wanted to make a prediction, after the definite article, we know that part of this answer is going to be a noun. If you wanted to make a prediction, then I would suggest kitchen, because it's, you know, crock pots usually mean that you don't have to spend as much time in the kitchen. So let's see if we can confirm that. So this reading is so short, it's might as well just read each part. So on these days, there is one kitchen appliance every chronic pain patient should have, a crock pot. Now we go to point 1. Crock pots can soothe the savage, hungry beast. So less time in the kitchen cooking means more time to sit down and have a family meal. So here we can see the keyword time, right? So less time, and less time where? Less time in the kitchen. So the prediction was correct, and I'll make sure I spell kitchen correctly. Okay, so we have 3 more questions. Now, the fill in the blank, it could also be the first part of the sentence. Here we're going to find the words to complete the sentence, but the words are missing from the beginning of the sentence. So again, our prediction is it must be a noun phrase or a noun, because we have the verb take. So something takes a very short time to prepare. Now, one thing I could tell you is it must be plural, because with subject-verb agreement, a plural noun would agree with take, right? So if it was singular, we would say singular noun takes, but this must be a plural noun. So this is a way of making a prediction. And using those grammar cues is also a way of checking that you have the correct answer. So a very short time to prepare. So my prediction, it sounds like some kind of meal, right? So let's have a look. Okay, I'm going to check. We've already had a look under number 1, so we'll just finish off that. On days when the pain is too much, it's easy to direct another cook in the kitchen. Okay, nothing there. Number 2, crock pots can help cut out snacks. So prepackaged snacks are often filled with salt, sugar, and preservatives. Having something ready immediately means you can wash your hands and sit down to a homemade meal. So there's nothing about preparation time there. Okay, crock pots can help you predict the future. So when you suffer from chronic pain, which means pain that you always have, there will be days you don't feel like cooking. Freezer crock pot meals take a very small amount of time and effort to prepare. So there we go, prepare, there's prepare. And what do not take long to prepare? Freezer crock pot meals. So the last one, or second to last one. So crock pots can prepare vegetarian, something, and if our grammar is correct, then obviously the word and must be missing from here because we're looking at a list of things, right? So crock pots can prepare vegetarian. So we know we've already checked 1 and 2, and there's nothing about the types of meals. But here we're looking at dietary options. So this looks like a dietary option, vegetarian. So under point 4, crock pots are great for all kinds of vegetarian, paleo, or gluten-free recipes. So it looks like here the answer will be paleo, which is the type of food which people apparently used to eat in the times of the caveman, or gluten-free. Now, you may think that this is 4 words, but paleo is 1 word, or is the next word. When we have a hyphen, right, so we have gluten hyphen free, this is treated as 1 word, right? So hyphenated word. Now I've put in the comma, that may be optional. The answer will probably still be correct without a comma, but again, I just like to keep the punctuation that you would expect to see in everyday English. Last question now. So choose no more than 3 words from the passage. So it's the same as before. Crockpots make it easier to stop eating. Now, at this point, we should be very familiar with the reading, and hopefully by now we know that the answer for this is going to be snacks. Now, there are 2 possible answers here. So we could say crockpots can help cut out snacks. So the answer could just be snacks by itself. But if we read further on, it says pre-packaged snacks. So the answer could be snacks, or I'm sure that this would also be acceptable as well. And I'm going to put in pre-packaged snacks. So if this answer is not accepted on the website, then I will be sure to pass that information on, because again, in the IELTS test, you can have multiple answers for some questions. So what do we do now? We press next. On the site, we press next, then we go to finish. Oops. Okay, so I see. Okay, so this is something which will have to be updated on the site. Again, with the use of the comma, then don't worry, you would expect that to be acceptable. In fact, with this site, if there's something that you disagree with, this is something that I'd like to demonstrate. I can simply say disagree and follow up with the site manager, and comment has been recorded. I must have clicked it twice. Okay, and as I just mentioned, I was sure that pre-packaged snacks would be an acceptable answer, so I'm going to disagree with that as well. So in terms of site management, if a student thinks of another answer and they're sure that it's possible, that information can be passed on to the site manager, and he will consider that. So I'm pretty sure that those answers are acceptable. So the site will be updated, hopefully. Anyway, I'd just like to tell you about the schedule coming ahead, or schedule, depending on how you pronounce it. So I'm going to go back to the digital whiteboard. So let's clear this up and talk about what is coming up ahead. So on Thursday, which unbelievably is June the 4th, this is for grade subscribers. And this is a webinar for writing task 2. Now, again, this one is just for the grade subscribers on Thursday. And in terms of the actual essay, we have an essay volunteered from one of our subscribers in Vietnam. So we're going to be looking at that essay, looking at the good points, and also thinking how it could be improved. On Sunday, we have our replays. That is June the 7th, is it? Yes, June the 7th. This will be your replay. And this one will be another replay on reading. It's going to be academic. Now with the replays, if you do watch the replay, then there will be somebody from the site that you can interact with if you have questions about the replay that you're watching. Next Tuesday, this is public webinar. This one is going to be on vocabulary. So haven't had a webinar which is dedicated just to vocabulary. So what's going to happen with this public webinar, I'll make that a capital P. So this is next Tuesday. I should have put the date here. So I think the date is June the 9th. Now it can't all fit, can it? Okay, so I'll just get rid of some space here. It's a little tight in there, but anyway, hopefully you can see. So next Tuesday, June the 9th, there's a public webinar on vocabulary. We're going to look at vocabulary as a whole and how to best prepare your own vocabulary for the purpose of the IELTS test. So we're going to look at the types of words that you should focus on. So I really think this is going to be a useful one for all of you. So again, just to review, on Thursday, we have our webinar for grade subscribers, writing task 2. Sunday, we have the replay of the reading. If you do watch, there'll be somebody there that can take your questions. And this time next week, I'll be in the middle of my webinar for vocabulary. So these webinars always are at the same time, which is 1:30 Indian Standard Time, where so many of you watch. And that is 8 p.m. Sorry, I should say p.m. That's 8 p.m. here in New Zealand. So wherever you are, I hope that you're safe and enjoy the rest of your week. Grade subscribers, I look forward to seeing you on Thursday.